Well, good evening, parents, and thank you for joining us for our Headmasters Roundtable here in February. It's been a little while since we've had a Headmasters Roundtable, and it's great to see so many parents signed up for our discussion tonight. It's going to be a pretty robust discussion. I'm going to offer you a little bit of information to start it up, but we have some special guests here joining us tonight. I'm stalling just a little bit as some of our guests join the room and populate the room, but we're expecting over 100 families tonight, which is fantastic. So first of all, it's great to sort of see you, I guess, and at least see that you're with us. We are just finishing up the low residency program here on campus and the H term. We're heading into spring break next week. And then we will have the joy of welcoming back almost all of our students for the spring term as we repopulate campus. In place of students, we've had a lot of snow, and that's been fun, but we'd much rather have the students back. Tonight, our agenda is all about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm going to provide you with a bit of an update on where things have been and where they're headed with DEI at the Hill. We're going to introduce you to the Olive Branch Educators Partnership that we've created, Dr. Artis, and you'll get to meet her tonight. And then we'll spend at least, hopefully, 20 to 30 minutes with questions and answers about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and Hill, and any other questions you have. And then we'll just talk a little bit about next steps. We've got some exciting opportunities for parents to continue this conversation after we conclude tonight. I'll be your host tonight. There I am, Zack Lehman. I think we all know each other by this point. So first, I just wanted to talk a little bit about our historical and ongoing DEI programs and initiatives. This is, while we certainly have increased our focus on this since this past spring, it has been a very important part of our efforts at Hill thus far. So for a number of years, we've had a director or co-director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Originally, I think it was called Director of Diversity, and then it was Diversity and Inclusion. Now it's a more comprehensive title. We've had varying forms of an inclusion council on campus. Now it's our DEI committee for students, and we've done a lot of work during Inclusion Week, and that work has continued. We've always had a number of curricular initiatives around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that is being expanded significantly this year, especially during the H term, where we did a lot of work around social justice, as you may have heard from your children, maybe followed along. There have always been a number of clubs and student affinity groups for students of color and other organizations on campus, different cultural organizations, religious organizations, and a wide diversity of organizations to represent our students. In recent years, over the last, I'd say 10 to 15 years, Hill has made significant partnerships with different feeder schools and organizations that have helped to diversify our community. And that has been those have been wonderful partnerships for the school. In recent years, we've added hate speech and identity-based misconduct to our code of conduct, and we've ramped that up substantially this year and created an incident reporting system, a bias incident reporting system, which provides a lot of confidentiality for our students, but also accessibility and transparency, and that has been well used this year in a very healthy way. Of course, the school has its anti-discrimination policies for both students and employees, about 7 years ago, we formed Hobart's Run, which is our neighborhood improvement initiative here in Pottstown. And that has a lot of inherent diversity, equity, and inclusion topics or initiatives as part of it. So those are the things that we've been doing, and they continue to grow and become more of a focus here at Hill. So what have we really done this year, I think, that is substantially different than previous years? So first of all, our students have been very active. Our student DEI committee, which has a wide range of students representing different aspects of our community with great leadership, very active. They shared a newsletter this year, which provided a lot of resources and books and music, podcasts, and different ways for students to learn about different identities and DEI on campus and off campus. Our prefects, who are older students who provide leadership in the dormitories, they went through a pretty substantial training program focusing on implicit bias and racial profiling this fall before the rest of the students arrived. Our student committee established a DEI dictionary, helping our students to understand different terms and shared that out with our entire community. And we've hosted a number of special community events, celebrations. We've had guest speakers on campus and the like. So that's been, it's been a very active year on this front. From an institutional standpoint, we have been active as well. We have been working closely with our faculty and staff. This fall, we had faculty-led group discussions relating to the Other Westmore and Racial Profiling, 2 books that our community read over the summer. We also welcomed Westmore to campus for an in-person presentation and remarks, and that was an unbelievable night for our students. First of all, to have an in-person experience is always amazing. Our advisory meetings really have been dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion topics, not entirely, but in much more intensely than in previous years. Right now, during the H term, all of our classroom teachers are going through a professional development seminar around the book, Not Light, But Fire. And this is how to lead meaningful conversations about race and diversity within the classroom. And that's been a very successful seminar already, and it's still ongoing. Our alumni have been very active since the spring and have formed a Black alumni affiliate group and have elected leadership for that group, and it's underway. It's been kicked off. And some of you may have seen some information about this in our recent issue of Hill Ties, our school magazine. I'm also really proud of our Board of Trustees, which has embarked on their own journey with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have formed a task force, which is highly representative. It includes board members, it includes faculty and staff members, it includes alumni who are not on the board, and students as well. And we've been working with an outside consulting group called Strategenius, which focuses on these types of conversations. And we've met, I think, almost every 2 or 3 weeks, and really starting to dive into how the leadership of the school, especially the Board of Trustees, can address inequity and address diversity and inclusion in their governing role. So as they think about the budget of the school or the admissions policies of the school or the financial aid aspects of the school or their own membership, they will begin taking these, not begin, but continue and increase the focus on DEI in their conversations and decision-making on behalf of the school. And that's a very welcomed addition to our conversation. And last but not least, I think in one of the most important moves that we've made, we have announced and appointed Reverend Khristi Adams to be our Dean of Spiritual Life and Equity for next year, beginning next year. In many ways, it's a continuation of the 2 roles that she has served, but we are providing the time and space she needs to do those even better than she's doing them now, and be able to focus on our students and our community in a way that she's just fantastic at. So in addition to Khristi serving in this role, we are also establishing a Center for Spiritual Life and Equity on campus, which is a physical space where students will be able to gather, hold club meetings. It's got a full kitchen. They'll be able to have celebrations and dinners and other events, and just also relax and talk about topics that are important to them, or just literally let their hair down and be comfortable. So that will be open next year, and that's where Khristi will be stationed. So Khristi, are you there?
I am.
There she is.
Hi.
Look at that. Just right on time. Hi, Khristi.
Hi.
Congratulations on your new role.
Thank you.
Yeah. We couldn't be more excited to have you serving our community in that capacity.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting started, even though I've already gotten started. But really diving into it, and like Zach said, having the room to be able to devote to the role is something that's really important. And so I'm grateful. I think there's a lot of things that are going to be cleared out. I'll still be teaching, but just not to the extent that I've been doing in previous years. So but I want to talk about the inspiration behind tonight, behind our guest speaker in particular. The inspiration behind her, our inviting her, came from one of the mothers of one of our third formers, who I believe is on the call. But I did not ask her permission to use her name, so I'm going to leave her anonymous for now, unless she says so. But that mother is also the mother of another child who attends Princeton Day School. And she reached out to me a few months ago and wanted to let me know about discussions that PDS has been having around diversity and inclusion. And what has followed those discussions were the offering of several book groups that they had in the fall for parents of PDS students. So this particular parent was intrigued to participate in one of the groups because as a white person, she said she often felt it was challenging to know how to productively engage in difficult discussions around race and diversity. And I want to quote her, because she said, "I found the group enlightening, and it has pushed me to think more about how to engage in discussions about race and diversity, not only with my children, but with others," which I found pretty profound. So her and I had a really great conversation. And I was encouraged to look up more about the woman that is behind this consulting group that led these conversations. And that woman is Dr. Diana Ardus, who will be speaking to all of us this evening. At the time, I read more about the work that Dr. Artis is doing at PDS, and I was thoroughly impressed with her background. But I think most importantly, what it gave me was like a sense of peace and resolve, to know that in an area that could be quite contentious and difficult, one of our parents was moved by Dr. Ardis's professionalism and her gentleness and her integrity. She was so moved that she felt compelled to reach out to me to suggest it for our parents at Hill. So that was enough to give me a great sense of ease. And I hope that Dr. Ardus will do the same for all of you. I do want to read her bio. She is the CEO and founder of Olive Branch Educators and has over 25 years of experience working at both the individual and institutional level. Dr. Artis has created a diversity education program based on well-established models of identity development. Using evidence-based principles, she and the Olive Branch Educator team help to transform institutions and assist individuals in their journey toward increased self-awareness regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. In addition to her training as a diversity practitioner, Dr. Artis has a background in organizational development and group process, all of which play a critical role when organizational change is the goal. She has firsthand leadership experience and is skilled at designing and delivering training. Dr. Ardus received her doctoral degree in counseling psychology with a focus on cross-cultural competency from Columbia University Teachers College. So I have the privilege of introducing Dr. Diana Ardus, who is with us. There she is. I think I see her.
Hi, Khristi. Nice to see you.
I'm going to go out.
Thank you for that. Okay, don't go too far.
Okay.
So thank you for that wonderful introduction. And it is an absolute pleasure to be here at the school. I have to just share a little story, how life comes full circle. I guess it was early last year, I was wandering into Barnes and Noble just to have some quiet time to prepare for a workshop that I was doing. And I saw that there was a book read. And Khristi was there, and she was promoting her book, and supporting a great conversation, a great organization, I think it's Black Girls Read.
Brown Kids Read.
Brown Girls Read.
Mhm.
And I sat down and I loved it. It was great. And I enjoyed hearing her and watching her support the students. And who knew that, almost a year later,
Yeah.
that we would be collaborating. So I love how that happened. It's awesome. So anyway, thank you. And, it's great to have had the, a parent at another school kind of speak on my behalf and invite me to come and share some things with the Hill School community. So it's great to be here. So I'm just going to share a little bit about, DEI, how I work, why I think involving parents in the work is important. And then my understanding is that we're going to leave time for Q&A, which is often the best way to kind of learn about this and to sort of begin the process. Parents are critical in this work. And I love hearing all that has gone on at the Hill School. I mean, it's amazing what you've done, a great role model for so many schools. And it is really important to bring parents into the work as well. And I think sometimes schools shy away from parents, and it can be a little scary, but we need parents. We really need you. This work cannot be successful. It's not sustainable without the support of parents. And so it's encouraging that your school recognizes that and is offering an opportunity for parents to jump in. The way that I approach the work is identifying skills, language, tools, strategies. And this work is really skill-based. It's not about being good or bad people. Where, this community, I'm sure, is a community of good people who are well-intended. And I like to encourage folks to think about DEI as learning a second language or a third language. And so you have to develop skills, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to have to lean into some uncomfortable conversations. It's important that you suspend judgment of yourself and others. It's important that you forgive yourself for the mistakes that you make. I don't use labels in my work. I don't feel like they're helpful at all. That goes along with the norm of not judging ourselves or others, depending on where they are on the journey. So really just leaning in and learning. The topic of race is going to be the focus of book club discussions that I'll be offering in the community for parents beginning in March. And, race is a topic that is really hard for us to discuss in this country. And it really is an important topic to discuss. Certainly it was the motivator for a lot of the activity that happened in our country over the summer. And it's one of the many identifiers in this work that we just shy away from. And so if parents become comfortable with the language, then they will encourage their students to do the same. And we really need you to join with us to support students so that they're not getting inappropriate, inaccurate information from social media. There's a lot of stuff out there that's just not real helpful. So, I encourage parents to just jump into the work and to learn right alongside of their students. And, and many times they're way ahead of us. And so we have to play catch up, and we certainly can. The book clubs are designed to create safe spaces to jump into the conversation. And I like the model of using a book club because it gives us a little bit of distance from the work. The books that I've chosen and that the Hill School has agreed would be a good fit are books that are discussing race from two different perspectives. And so the groups are divided between those who have children that identify as white and another group for parents who have children that identify as students of color. And I know that sometimes folks can wonder, well, isn't that really divisive? Shouldn't we all be together in the same space? And the answer is yes, there is a time and a place for that as well. However, there's also a time for separate conversations. So, one example that I like to share is that, I have no issue with men, but sometimes I just like to hang out with my girlfriends. And the conversations with the girlfriends are very different than when the men are in the space. And so it's a similar thing. These conversations can be challenging. And we want to encourage you to really dig in, to push, to ask the questions that are hard to ask without harming one another. So there might be questions that parents of color or parents of children of color might want to ask to kind of understand more about the dominant narrative and the way in which white families approach race. And they want to do it in a place where it's safe, where they're not saying something that could be hurtful to their white friends, their white colleagues. And the same is true for, white parents, parents of children who identify as white. So we don't want to view it as divisive. It's separate, right? Separate opportunities. And there will always be time for sharing across spaces. But definitely the way in which we approach race and race-based conversations is different depending on how we identify. So as I said, both books will focus on that topic. One book, the title of one is So You Want to Talk About Race? So those for families of color. And the other book talks about raising white kids, bringing up children in a racially unjust America. And in that book, the author gives some real concrete strategies about how to have the conversations with your children, with your family member, with spouses, with loved ones, with peers. And she speaks from her own experience. She's a mom. And so she gives theory as well as practical suggestions, which is great. And then the other book are for folks of color to just talk about something that for many of us is kind of second nature. It's something that we talk about all the time, that we live all the time. And so the way in which we approach the conversation is different. So that's going to be, the groups are going to meet for about 7 weeks. The sessions are, I believe we said an hour, maybe an hour or 90 minutes. I don't watch the clock. It's more important that we get that we meet the needs of the group. And we will break up the books by chapters. I'll offer some prompts for you to think about in advance, and then we get together and have a discussion. I have found when I run these book clubs that the parents who participate in it then become advocates in the school community. So as Khristi mentioned, I've been doing this work at Princeton Day School, and I had a meeting with the Parent Association, and some of the members of the Parent Association were participants in the book club discussion. And so they were able to speak up and to support what I was saying. It's great for me to come in and share, but it's even better to have someone who's a part of the community to be able to speak as well. So that was really encouraging to see these parents that moved from the book club, felt confident in their skills, and were able to jump in and encourage other parents to participate in the conversation. So that's kind of an overview. I could go on and on and on about this topic. I could share a lot, but I think it would be helpful to take questions and see what's on your mind and kind of learn more about what you're hoping to get out of a book club discussion. What are your challenges? What are your concerns? I have thick skin, and so do not be shy about asking any questions. I try to extend grace and hope that others will as well, because we're all working to, I believe, the same goal. So I'll pause there, if that's okay, Zach, and allow parents to ask questions.
Diana, thank you so much for that overview and giving our families a little bit of insight to the work you're doing and that the work you're offering and inviting our families to do with each other and with you. So there are 2 ways to ask questions here. The first is the most fun, of course, is to raise your hand, and I can allow you to speak. And if you want, I can show your video. That's even more fun. If you would prefer to not speak out loud, you could type your question into the Q&A box. And so you can go ahead and start typing those questions now, and I'll sort of feed those to Dr. Ardus as we go. But we already have a couple hands up, so that gives some people some time to ask questions. So first I'm going to, Eric has had his hand up for a little while. Eric, can you hear us? Eric, you're muted, Eric. All right, well, maybe Eric accidentally put his hand up. We'll come back to Eric. Tomi is here, and I'm sure she did that intentionally because her hand just popped up. So Tomi, are you there? Tomi? You need to unmute yourself, Tomi. There you go.
Hi. Sorry, my system was just taking time to unmute. Thanks for giving me the opportunity, and thanks for organizing this.
Sure.
So, Dr. Artis, thanks for talking about this. I'm actually a parent at PDS as well.
Mhm.
I intentionally chose not to participate in the book club at PDS because we've been at PDS now for about 13 years. And over the years, a lot of times when they have instances where they do uh, uh, organized stuff to say they're addressing problems, they really follow up on that. So for me, I just saw like, you know what, this is just one more thing that they're going to do and not act upon. And as a Black parent, unfortunately, we've had instances where I haven't felt heard. And I think I've mentioned this also at PDS. But it's interesting, we've only been at IL for 4 years. And even though my children board, I've seen more engagement on the part of IL in terms of addressing issues that concerns the Black family, which is why I'm doing it here versus at PDS. But the biggest question for me is not about the discussion in the book club, is how do we translate those discussions into the daily lives of the students, because that is more important for me. I'll give an example. My daughter over the summer told me, oh, some of our Black peers had called her an Oreo at school. And there have also been instances where she's had other things happen with white students. So for her, there is kind of an isolation on either side. So it's how do we bridge that gap? How do we help her to feel comfortable as students in this society where this is an issue for her to face? So we can have the book discussions, but how do we translate that to helping them? That is what my question is about.
Sure. Thank you for your question. It's a great question. So in the book club format, the books that are selected provide an opportunity to think about the reasons why some of the experiences happen, similar to the one you described that your daughter has experienced. And I'm sorry that she's had that experience. The book club allows the parents to talk and share information. And so there are 3 levels that happen. So one is we discuss the material in the book. Another level is discussing it as parents of children of color. And then the third is translating it into the experiences, in this case at the Hill School. So what we would do, I would imagine, in the book club is create an opportunity to raise the question that you have raised, to hear from others, and to help one another understand why someone might say that, help someone understand where the isolation comes from. So confirming and validating your daughter's experience, which is very important. And then identifying strategies for you as a mom to help her negotiate that. So, we're teaching life skills that will hopefully carry her beyond her time at the Hill School, because certainly what you've described is not a new experience. I mean, that's an experience that sometimes students of color, Black students in particular, will experience when they attend predominantly white institutions. And so the book club will allow us to dig into that and to provide you with support and some strategies for having conversations with your daughter.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess the follow-up thing is I can have the conversation with her, but in the school environment, how does the school environment help them? And I think that for me is the biggest thing, as to, okay, we're having the book club, but in the long run, not just us parents or the adults only discussing what the students are facing, but how do we translate the reaction of parents, so to say, match them with with what the students are experiencing to come up with a solution that the schools can, can support them with.
Sure. So I'll share a little bit of something, and then I think I would turn it over to Khristi. Definitely having the conversations would help parents. You might be comfortable. There might be other parents who are not as comfortable raising a particular concern at the level of the institution. So it's kind of a place to practice, if you will. Additionally, if you hear that you're not the only one, or your child is not the only one experiencing it, then you build community. And so then together you go to the school and say, here's a common experience that students are having. How can we address it as a school? And then that is something where your new diversity director would be really helpful in sort of thinking through a response that the school could provide. And so, definitely I want to invite you, Khristi, to respond as well.
I think Khristi may have just frozen.
Froze, yeah.
She was having a little bit of trouble. But I think I can also. Oh, she's back. Khristi, are you there?
I froze. I had a response, and I was really mad that I froze, and I don't know why.
You're ready. You're back.
You're back.
And then Zach, you can piggyback, but as you were speaking, I was thinking, they have to work hand in hand, right? It goes back to that saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It quite literally takes a village, and so I think that's another reason why we're having this conversation with parents, because we need parent support as well. But we know fully well that it is our responsibility as an institution to provide that structural support for these students, which is what we've been working on for the past year, but we'll be working on even more intentionally moving forward. So like Zach mentioned a little bit earlier about how our Black alumni just started their own group, right? Well, for the last few weeks, I've been meeting with the co-presidents of that group, trying to come up with a mentoring program for our Black students for next year, and what that mentoring program will look like. Vetting, making sure they have background checks, making sure we're matching students, with alum that would work with them and be with them for all 4 years and support them alongside the support that we will hopefully be providing at the school, whether that's their advisors, teachers, etc. So it will be our responsibility.
Well, Khristi froze again. I think what I would just add to what Khristi was saying is that it's just one of a number of tools that we're deploying here at Hill. The book groups are one way for parents to get involved, especially in this kind of year where we're remote in many ways. But we have the task force and the DEI committee and the alumni affiliate group, and and Khristi's work. And there's just so many different things happening. So it's just a great way for parents to get involved. And as you said, Dr. Ardus, not all parents have the same comfort level with these kinds of conversations. All right, well, we're going to take the next question. Jean has her hand up. Jean, are you there? Calling in from Chicago, I'm guessing.
That's correct.
That's not Jean.
It's Winthrop, but
Winthrop, how are you, Mr. Short?
A few things. One, appreciation for the continued focus on DE&I, and congratulations, Reverend Adams, on the elevation and expansion of the role. Tactical question: how do we get involved in the book clubs? And two, more of an open question, Dr. Artis. Curious on your thoughts about where the national focus is or dialogue is on DE&I in the last 9 months in the United States, how things have evolved, the degree to which it's sustainable, and the adult population serving as a role model to our children in terms of continuing this focus. Just thoughts about how that's self-sustaining, or is it picking up momentum? Is it petering out with the passage of time? Beyond what Hill is doing in terms of this elevation. So those are the tactical question and the open question.
Sure, great questions. So the easy one, how to get involved. I believe the school is going to send out information. We try to make it real simple. There'll be a link where you can just click on and sign up, a Zoom link with the schedule. And so that's pretty easy. And the information that goes out will identify the book, the author. Each family, is responsible for getting their own copy, and then they just register using the link that's provided. To your other question, great question. So I do not think things are slowing down. If my business is any indication, things are continuing, which is great. And I'm encouraged to see that it's more than just schools. Schools, and particularly independent schools, have been involved in this work for a while. I'm interested to see that, some of the different places where I'm working are government agencies and, financial firms, wealth management firms, nonprofits, just a lot. And in terms of sustainability, it really depends on how committed the organization is and commitment of time and resources. This work is not something that will happen overnight. It took us a while to get where we are, and it's not going to change overnight. And I think sometimes the frustration or the impatience that comes with it, we have to push through and endure. Having conversations at a deeper level, which is the way that my organization works. So we don't have stock programs that we pull off the shelf. We get to know an organization, the culture of the organization, and help them really identify what it is that they would like to do. And to the extent that they're willing to invest time and energy, I think we will see changes. And there are a lot of organizations out there that are committed to this for the long run. So they begin by saying, we don't want this to be a one-off. We really want to be committed to it. So I am hopeful that it will continue.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure.
The question went through, and just to expand on the book club and the books, shortly after this, probably in the next day or two, all parents will get links, not just the ones who are here tonight. All parents will get links to sign up for the book club, as well as links to get the books. And we'll share out the first assignment before the first workshop. So great, thank you. Okay, we have two written questions, and then I'll go back to the raised hands. I'll read this one out loud to you, Dr. Ardus. I have found my organic friendships have been the path to true understanding of race. It is hard to ask honest questions sometimes in groups because people are so afraid. I'm sorry, my individual friendships, not organic friendships, are so afraid of being labeled racist. Did organic friendships develop out of the book club? He's driving, so do organic friendships develop out of the book club? I also believe in the concept of intentional intersectionality and encouraging people to reach out and form relationships even when they feel unnatural initially. Thank you for recognizing the importance of parents and the necessity of leading by example. Sorry if this is a little choppy. I'm in the car and it's hard to get the question down.
No, that's okay. Be safe in the car. So, great question. Yeah, I do think friendships grow in the book club. I think what people bring to it is what they will take away from it. And so most of the folks who sign up are really committed to it and they hang in there. Sometimes you have a lot of people that sign up at first and then it kind of dwindles. That's just sort of natural. But there are friendships that happen. There's growth that happens. In one of the book clubs that I ran, it got to the point where there was one person who had a very different opinion from the rest of the group. And one of our norms is really listening to understand. And I was just so encouraged by the way in which the group just embraced this parent. And, we spent the entire session asking the question and giving answers from different perspectives. And the parent felt enough trust to push through. And at the end, we all kind of landed at the same place. And so that is what it's all about. So in these book clubs, I really try to create that space where that process can happen, where you can make those connections with people that you're just meeting for the first time.
Dr. Ardus, do you have you used the function on Zoom, like the chat room, the breakout groups?
Yes.
So that people can do more one-on-one.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
is there an opportunity at the end of this for us to come back together as the two groups, the two different book clubs coming back together to talk? Or is that structured?
Well, that's something that that I try to get the find out what the group feels would be helpful, right? So I think sometimes the parents who are parents of white children who identify as white are more interested in coming together with the other book club than they are in coming together. And that's only because, you know, the parents of color have been living with this for a while. And so a lot of this is not new. And it can be hard for them to kind of, you know, relive these experiences. And so it depends. You know, what I did find happened on the other book club is that some of the parents who identified as white actually got the book that the other group was reading and read it themselves, which was great, you know, because they were doing the work themselves rather than asking those parents to do the work for them. But each community is different. So like I said, there's not a one size fits all, and that's definitely a conversation that we can have. And there might be a subset of parents from each group that would be comfortable coming together.
Well, and we'll continue having these kinds of conversations. And so if there's 50 parents that go through this process, that's 50 more parents that feel comfortable in any setting, having these conversations, sort of what you were saying earlier. Okay, the next question comes from Maria, who asks, what is the school doing regarding other ethnicities, Latino, Asian, etc.? That may be a question more for Khristi.
Hopefully I won't blur up.
Freeze again?
Freeze if I do.
Talk very quickly, Khristi.
Okay, I'm gonna try. So I think this might come out of, you know, the mention of the mentoring group for the current Black students and the Black alumni. That was based on the spillover from last summer. Our Black students were the one demographic that was like the focal point from last summer, and the tensions that spilled over from all protests, et cetera. But yes, we have a large, just focusing specifically on our Asian student population, we have a large Asian student population, whether that is Asian American and international. And we are working on creating a strategy to support these particular students. I think as far as the mentoring program is concerned, the long-term goal, because again, I always want to emphasize that, like, I haven't started the position yet. So when I do, we're gonna have like these long-term goals that I would love to talk through a little bit more once we have some more substantial plans. So that'll probably be this summer. But the idea, the long-term goal will be to create other mentoring programs. But for me, we have to start one at a time right now because it's just me. But so we're starting one at a time with the mentoring program. We're gonna see how we kick this one off, and then move to the next area of need. So that would be ideal. I would be moving to our Asian American students next. For other populations, and I'm focusing on the mentoring program because we have enough alumni, we have enough Black alumni in order to match them, right, with current students. That's not always the case with every other ethnicity. And so we have to think that through as well. It doesn't necessarily always need to be someone of one particular ethnicity has to be the same ethnicity to do the mentoring. So we have to think through that as well. For our international students in particular, they have had even before I got here, but particularly right now, we have a support staff that oversees the care of those students. And so we know that she's overwhelmed too, because there's just so many students. So, that's another thing that we have to do to support her, to provide the structure and the support. The other thing that we're doing, we've been partnering a lot with the counseling center. Our counseling center is so culturally competent. They are, I've just been amazed this year at how much they've evolved, and the focus on our just ethnic minority students in general. They are very focused on that group, and they're focused on all of our students, right? But they've been very intentional about making sure to reach out, partner. We're doing surveys, we're getting demographics and numbers, seeing which student populations or demographics, have, discriminatory experiences or feeling marginalized, et cetera, and coming up with plans for how to deal with that. But on a programmatic level, structural level, but also on a care and counseling level as well. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And sometimes I just don't want for any of our parents to feel like they're getting swept away in the Black-white conversation, right? Now we know that the race relations between Black, white is literally the DNA of this country. However, right, we are in sort of like a smorgasbord of ethnicities that I feel like, you know, definitely we need to continue to focus on when it comes to this conversation, but also we don't want any of those students to feel left out of the conversation either, which we have to acknowledge will happen because of the history, right? But at the same time, we do want to make sure that we're programming, that we're providing structure, and we're providing care. And those are the three areas that I really want to focus on as far as the planning moving more long-term.
Great. Thank you, Khristi. We have a hand up. Mary Jo is here. Hold on a second. Mary Jo, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Hi, Mary Jo. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Doing great. Good to hear your voice.
Thank you, Zach and Dr. Adams for having this program for us this evening and bringing the book club to the school. And I wanted to welcome you, Dr. Artis, and thank you for being here. As you described the book club, I can very much appreciate the value of the separation and how that can lead to a richer dialogue and a more perhaps honest and authentic discussion. And so particularly as you said, you know, people are learning new skills, second language, and that this is some real training that's going to be going on. But my question was kind of something that Zach touched on earlier. I think I wanted to echo that I think there is great value in bringing the groups together so we can actually put those skills to use, because I feel like that's an important part of kind of integrating and advancing this dialogue that is so important. So I just wanted to kind of echo that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I guess what I would say to that, Mary Jo, is every other day that isn't a book club are days that we're together. You know, we are together as a community, at least as our students, and hopefully as the world changes, you know, our families can be together more often. And so I don't think it's, you know, I think it's a small percentage of the time when we're going to do these separate groups, but I do hope that there's lots of opportunities for all of our families to come together, whether they've been in the book clubs or not.
Sure.
And the more people we have that feel competent and comfortable with this conversation, the better it's going to go for all of us.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we know how adults are experiential learners, and if we put the new tools to work, the sooner we put them to work, I think the more stickiness they have. So I was just sharing that I think that would be great if that happens.
Yeah. Dr. Ardus, have you had any experience with students reading these books alongside their parents in the book club, or the parents, you know, or are they really designed for parents, these two books?
No, students could read them as well. In some of the book clubs that I've run, there are parents who have engaged with their students around the topics. So definitely these are books that students and parents can read together. Excuse me.
You know how much teenagers love extra reading.
Oh, I know, right? Absolutely.
Great. Mary Jo, did you have any follow-ups?
No, this is great. I'm very excited. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you at the book clubs. Okay. One question, Dr. Ardus. Do the book clubs include faculty members or staff members who are not parents, or do we specifically try to keep this to parents only? I mean, we do have some faculty who are parents, but is that important for our families to know that they can speak freely and not feel like they're going to have any, you know, blowback or anything like that?
Yeah, I think we want to have space for them to speak freely. So I think it's tricky if there are faculty members who are part of the book club. Now, certainly if they are also parents of
Right.
students in school, you know, we can definitely negotiate that. And we definitely speak about confidentiality in the book club discussion. So I would hope that if a faculty member did join as a parent, that they would honor the confidentiality.
Sure. Well, that's great. Well, we still have time for one or two more questions. If you have a question, feel free to ask it. I figured there'd be a couple questions that had nothing to do with DEI tonight. With the spring term upon us, you can ask those questions if you want to. But while we've got Dr. Ardus, we'd welcome any questions. So if you'd like to raise your hand, I'll give you a minute here. Khristi, while we're waiting for someone to raise their hand, is there anything that you want to add on the last couple of questions?
No.
Tell us more. Can you tell us a little bit more about the space we're going to be using?
Yeah, I'm so excited. So the space that we're carving out, it is partly my office, but also, which I'm curious to see if it will be at all, because we're going to have a TV and a couch and, well, couches. So it's going to be, I actually started my work working at a nonprofit that was called the Underground Youth Enrichment Center as a youth specialist. And so this is just sort of near and dear to my heart, just having kids come in and have a space where they can hang out and study and even meet as student groups, watch movies, etc. Of course, and, socially distanced right now, but what would be ideal too would be just to have a space where students can feel like they can come and just, feel themselves. So I'm really excited about that. We'll have some patio furniture outside. We'll do some, maybe do some barbecues out on, there's like a grassy area out there. So we're really excited to just have a place to call home. For me, being chaplain at school, we have the chapel, that is our space. But every time student groups or students want to meet, they can't always just come to my apartment, and there hasn't been a central space. So this is particularly exciting. And if anybody has any questions about that, I'll answer that to the best of my ability.
And where do you think the intersection of the spiritual life and the DEI work, because that center is named for both, your position is named for both. That was very intentional by us here at Hill. Can you address that a little bit?
For me, it's like twofold. We are a religiously diverse school. I've been at schools that was just one particular denomination or one particular religious affiliation, but we have so many students that identify from jump on the form, whether they are Catholic or Christian or Jewish, whether they identify as Sikh, if they identify as Muslim. Even the students that don't identify as anything, agnostic, right, atheist. So we are a spiritually diverse school. So naturally, spiritual life overlaps with diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And when my first year, unfortunately, that was the shooting at the Pittsburgh synagogue, my first year. And in classes, those types of conversations were coming up, like, why would somebody come in and do this? Why would they, what's the difference between Jewish culture and, Jewish religion? Those are the types of things that also reflect diversity and inclusion as well, that we need to be sensitive to and mindful of. And then the second part of it is the care piece. I really truly feel like, and just particularly partnering with the counseling center, that, that there's a lot of trauma, PTSD, associated with inequality, bias, racism. And so we don't want to overprogram our students. We want to make sure that they know that they are being cared for, and that their mental health and their emotional and spiritual well-being is being prioritized as well.
Thank you. All right, we have one hand up. It's a familiar voice. It's Tomi again. Hold on a second. Tomi, you have another question.
No, not really a question. I just wanted to say thank you very much, because like I said, I've had experience with other schools. One of the things that, has been very, very impressive for us with you is that the needs of the students are put first and foremost, and it is indeed, as the school, name says, a family school. And I've been very, very impressed with the fact that it's not just parents talking about this, but the students are actually involved. And, it's interesting for me to see Mofe or Tofe telling me, oh, I have a DEI meeting, or I'm planning a DEI event. So having them involved in it, helps them to take responsibility and help them to be a part of the process. And it is because you created that avenue for them. So I just wanted to say thank you. And also having this opportunity for parents to also be a part of it, it means a lot. So thank you.
Sure. Who's practicing the violin in the background there?
Oh, Mofa.
I figured. All right. Well, thank you again for that comment. From the shorts out in Chicago, thank you, Dr. Ardus, Reverend Adams, Mr. Lehman. Moving on to another topic, Parents Weekend. Still in April, exact dates, in person and under what conditions, or virtual, what influences this? I don't have answers for you, unfortunately. We still have Parents Weekend on the calendar. We're really hyper-focused on getting all of our students to campus safely, and repopulating campus, and getting back to our healthy practices here. And we'll be announcing as soon as we can what Parents Weekend looks like, and whether it'll be in person, virtual, or some sort of hybrid. You know, things are changing every day and getting better every day. So I'm optimistic, but I would hate to make any promises at this point. But we have the times saved, so that's good. Another comment. Thank you so much for allowing the parents to participate in this very important work. I'm looking forward to this opportunity very much, as I'm spearheading similar initiatives at one of the local public school districts. So Dr. Ardus, you're like contagious, you know, and that's a bad word to use in COVID, but everything, people are spreading the word about your good work. So that's terrific. And looks like we'll have some ambassadors that are taking it beyond the hill.
That's awesome.
Well, that's a great note to end on. Dr. Ardus, we kept it under an hour as promised. Just again, a big thanks to everyone for joining us tonight. We will be sending out a specific email. There'll also be in Hill Days, the parents newsletter. There'll be links there probably for the next couple of weeks. This starts in March, so you have some time to get get signed up and get the book. I don't think they're very expensive books either, Dr. Ardus, are they? They're pretty reasonably priced. And we'll get started, and we can't wait to hear how that goes. And then we will, we'll come back together, because we do Headmasters Roundtables all the time. DEI is a topic that's very top of mind for all of us. For the parents that are on the call, we're looking forward to welcoming your kids back. You will start getting emails next week, customized emails based on your own child's timeline for returning, whether they're coming back early because they're flying to campus and need to quarantine on campus, or if you're driving. And that will include a number of updates on campus protocols and reminders about testing. Just a big reminder, the pre-arrival test has to be a PCR test, not an antigen test. So make sure you're scheduling that accordingly. And you can still go to our landing page, which we've updated pretty regularly for the spring term. That was in my email I sent out. And that has our updated policies around on-campus expectations as well. So, there we are. So, Diana, Dr. Ardus, thank you for your time.
Absolutely, my pleasure, my pleasure. Look forward
Reverend
to
Adams, glad you made it through the second half without freezing up. And I wish all of our parents a good evening, and coming up on a weekend. So happy weekend, and stay well, stay healthy, and to our Chinese families, happy Chinese New Year. Today is first day of the Lunar New Year, so fantastic celebrations. And I had dumplings for dinner, so I feel good. Have a great night, everybody.